We are off to week 4 in the fantasy football season, and Joe and I are here to tell you which players that we are telling you to buy now and what it would look like to trade for these players to help you win some games, to make the playoffs, and hopefully win your championship.
Hike!
First player I'm going to buy now is wide receiver Adam Thielen. Crazy enough to say that. Heading into the season, I thought he was kind of an afterthought and, aging veteran on this kind of unknown Panthers offense heading into the season with the rookie quarterback at the helm. But, he's developed a connection with Bryce Young. Against the Saints, he had 9 targets, 7 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown. And then I thought he was getting an upgrade with the Red Rifle Andy Dalton this week, and sure enough, he ended up with 14 targets, 11 catches, 145 yards, and a touchdown. Absolutely smashed this week.
Yeah, Adam Thielen did really, really well. And you were. I have to say, when you're right, and you were right when it comes down to Andy Dalton. Just that offense was just moving at a better clip versus Bryce Young. So buying Adam Thielen, I think you're probably looking at him as a wide receiver 2, possible flex play. Now Bryce Young is out for the next week or two, so that does also factor in your decision. Because it's probably like Andy Dalton's not going to play the rest of the year unless Bryce Young has a catastrophic injury, because they want the rookie to get its reps. So based on some trade values that we've been looking at, we're going to be using Alex Peakton High School's trade value chart from Draft Shark. So Joe, looking at the values here, we actually couldn't find many people who had Adam Thielen on there. I think that's going to change very quickly. Let's see. Are you trading? Let's go in this middle range here. How about a guy like Sky Moore? Would you trade away Sky Moore? Cortland Sutton had a big game. Michael Thomas. Throwing out some of those names. Would you do a 1-for-1 to try to get Thielen in that scenario?
Yeah, I think I would. Especially, although I don't know, maybe you could do Sky Moore, seeing how he's a younger player. People might believe in the potential there. But I would certainly be willing to trade away Sky Moore for Adam Thielen at this point. Cortland Sutton and Michael Thomas are interesting. If you don't believe in Cortland Sutton the rest of the year, could use this opportunity to trade him away after the big game that he had against the Dolphins here. Because it does seem he has been the most consistent guy, but we've seen other guys get involved, like Marvin Mims, and Jerry Jeudy has been less involved, but he's there as well. And then Michael Thomas, I don't know what the extent of that Derek Carr injury is going to be. Jameis, didn't really look good coming in for Carr on a whim there. So those options definitely would be intriguing to trade away for Thielen at this point.
What about let's say, how about Elijah Moore, guy people are kind of excited about, AJ Dillon, Khalil Herbert, the waiver wire darling Jerome Ford, any of those guys, or would you trade all of them to require Thielen?
I wouldn't trade all of them.
Okay.
AJ Dillon, I don't know if anyone would do that, but if I could do that, I would definitely do that. And you mentioned Elijah Moore. I think I would hang on to Elijah Moore just because I like his ceiling potential, and we're seeing the Browns utilize him in different roles. I like him coming out of the backfield and stuff like that. So I like his potential and his ceiling there. But another thing to mention about Adam Thielen here coming up, he's got the revenge game coming up here this week in week 4. He gets to face the Minnesota Vikings, which is also a pretty good matchup defensively as well.
That's a great point, and he's probably going to smash again because we know that the Vikings secondary is one of the worst in the league. So the Red Rifle will be having himself another shootout.
Yeah.
If you do want to acquire him, you're going to want to acquire him now, because if you wait again next week, by this time next week, he's probably going to go off again. His price is going to go, all the way up. So, I'm with you. I think for those names that I threw out there, I tend to agree with you. It's hard to know what the Broncos. I mean, Sutton had a really good day as far as volume goes, but they got Jeudy, they got Mims. I think they're still trying to figure out the identity of that offense. Michael Thomas, I want nothing to do with him. So, yeah, I would trade him away. He's just injury prone. He's going to get injured at some point and probably not play. I don't want that to happen to him, but I'm very cynical as far as him being able to stay healthy. And I just don't, with the Chiefs and Sky Moore, it's a different Chiefs player every day. And I don't think you can really rely on him. Or Thielen's been doing great. And then as far as the running backs go, I'm with you. I'm out on Dylan. He should have performed these past 2 weeks without. I know it might have been tougher matchups, but still, you have the backfield to yourself, and you've got guys like Patrick Taylor rotating with you when Aaron Jones is out. That to me, I can't reliably start you because you're not. There's no ceiling. I'd rather take a dart throw and hope that something's going to happen. So. Didn't really like that either. And the the Bears are a mess. So no interest in Khalil Herbert. So I would definitely trade him away if somebody would do that. I don't know. He's been pretty underwhelming.
I think he's about to have a good week this week coming up against the Broncos. We just saw what Mostert and A-Chain were able to do. Brown's offense might come through this week.
Yeah, but their running back is basically Justin Fields. He might be the one that gets all the carries, not Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, they mixed in Roshan Johnson and Herbert in there a little bit, but Chiefs defense is underrated and they got two behind too quick.
I'm with you. I would hold on to Elijah Moore, by the way. Don't think I'd want to trade him away just yet. And then Jerome Ford, you didn't mention him. He had a touchdown today, but that offense didn't really run the ball that much.
Yeah, I still think I like Ford. I'd hang on to him because even though it might not have happened today, that was the one thing. Titans have been really good, against the run. They've got a decent front, but their secondary sucks. So I think that played into it as well. But Ford with his rushing and catching ability, I'm hanging on to him.
All right, so the player that I'm telling you to buy right now is wide receiver Jakobi Meyers. Last week he didn't play because of a concussion, but I was really impressed by what he was able to do Monday night against the Steelers. He had, I believe, 12 targets, which is a huge amount of targets for him. And then he had 7 catches for 85 yards. So he's getting a decent amount of volume. I mean, in my head, with a quick math there, that's 15.5 points in a PPR league for Jakobi Meyers. This offense is really funneled through Devontae Adams and Jakobi Meyers, and that's it. I would have thought Hunter Renfrow would have been more involved in this offense. He's clearly not, unless there's going to be a change. Jacobs is involved on from a pace-to-pace standpoint. He's good, but as far as the receiving options, it's really just those two. And Jimmy G has been a lot more capable than I thought he was going to be. Maybe I just thought he was more of a system. Well, no, I know. I thought he was going to be a system quarterback. He was in San Francisco. Didn't know what to expect from him, in Las Vegas, but he's actually played pretty well. So I would acquire Jakobi Meyers. He may even be, depending if it's a shallow league, people might have forgot about him because he had a concussion. And so he might be on the wire. You might be able to pick him up, put some fab down, go get him. I'd be willing to put like 15, 20%. Because I think he's a reliable flex play going forward for you. But I would definitely trade for him if he is on a roster. It might be hard to do so because the owner who has him would be like, why? But possibly, if you want to trade a player that you had on your roster that had potential that really hasn't, proven it so far, that could be a possibility.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm what I was surprised about is the fact that the Raiders aren't using the tight end position. They bring in Hooper in free agency, draft Michael Mayer. We did see him on the 2-point conversion, but outside of that, they're just not targeting the tight end position at all. To your point, it's really the Adams and Myers show.
Yeah, I know. I agree, and that was to surprise me because obviously, Jimmy G relied on Kittle quite a bit, and McDaniels has. That his offense, his identity is really run through tight ends as well. Waller, before he got injured, during his short stint with Vegas. But, with New England, obviously, everything they did with the tight end position.
Yeah. All right, Sabe. So looking at the trade value chart here, I'll give you a couple players to think about. Would you be looking to trade like Jackson Smith and Jigba, Michael Thomas, Gabe Davis, Elijah Moore, those kind of guys?
Elijah Moore is an interesting one because I like the potential, but his ADOT is pretty low right now. He's getting these dink and dunk receptions. I thought he'd be more involved with the offense. I don't know. I think if I had let's say I'm 3-0 and I have Elijah Moore, I'd be less likely to trade him away. But if I was 1-2 or 0-3, and I could get Jakobi Meyers for Elijah Moore, I'd probably do it because in my mind, I need the production now, and I don't have time to wait for Moore to turn it around. Michael Thomas, I mentioned to you before. I actually think it could be an upgrade. I feel like Winston, I don't know this for sure, but I want to say Winston decently targeted Thomas in the past when he was the quarterback previously. So I don't know if he actually will have a stronger rapport than Carr did because it wasn't that great with Carr. But I would definitely trade Michael Thomas away. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think at this point I would. It's a similar situation as I mentioned with Elijah Moore, where depending on my record, I would get the instant production. I like Jackson Smith-Njigba, but the problem is DK and Lockett have such a hold on that. Seattle is not accustomed to running 3 wide receiver sets, and they run the ball decently. So I think at this point I would move off of Smith-Njigba. So I think, and then Gabe Davis, yeah, he's just I would. He's not getting the target share. He's not getting that involvement that you've got Diggs, right? Who I guess you could compare to from an Adams standpoint. But then from there, Josh Allen is really sharing the targets with a lot of different players. Whereas it's really the Myers and Adams show. So
right.
That would be interesting. I don't know if someone would trade him or not. Another guy who's interesting that you didn't mention who I would trade away is Treylon Burks, guy who people had a lot of interest in. I think you could make that trade happen. I actually in one of our leagues, I actually was surprised to see someone just absolutely just cut him. They were done with him. But that Titans offense has struggled.
Yeah, there could be better days to come, though. The Browns defense has been pretty tough. We did see the week before he had that long pass, so we'll see if he gets some better matchups, what he does with it. But cross-positionally, would you be willing to trade, Jalen Warren, Zach Charbonnet, Khalil Herbert, those, and then maybe even Kyle Pitts?
That's interesting. All the running backs, yes, I would trade them away. You're getting instant production with Myers, and I feel like the target share numbers are not inflated. Like I think he's being involved heavily in the offense. I've been very impressed with him. So I would. Pitts, it's so hard with him because he has such name recognition that I feel like you could trade him and get quite a lot. So a part of me says, are you cutting yourself short for doing Myers for Pitts straight up? I think I would try to possibly get a 2-for-1, see if he can't get something else. Probably wouldn't happen, but maybe like a Luke Musgrave and a Jakobi Meyers, right? Because Musgrave has actually probably performed just as well as Pitts, but Pitts has got that name recognition. But I feel like that's fair to be able to offer a 2-for-1 in that situation. I just feel like just based on the name, I feel like you're kind of selling yourself short. From production, though, you could argue it is. It would be a win of a trade because I don't trust Arthur Smith to involve him too much.
Yeah, I think in redraft, I don't know how much value Kyle Pitts even has. Honestly, I think a lot of his name recognition and hope, revolves around dynasty and people wanting more from in dynasty. But I know some people are saying you can go ahead and just drop Kyle Pitts in redraft leagues. So,
wow, he's been saying that really.
Fantasy footballers, yeah.
Wow, that's big. Maybe I'm just too I mean, you know me though. I mean, that's my style is to hold on until I shouldn't have held on. So that's just my style.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Musgrave. I mean, at this point, he's shown more in that and getting more targets in that Green Bay offense. I'd much rather have Musgrave at this point.
So are you enjoying this video so far? Well, if you are, show your support to our new channel by hitting the subscribe button and liking this video. We'll be creating videos all NFL season long, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store.
My next player to buy now is going to be wide receiver Marquise Brown. He's a guy that I wasn't high on entering the season, but the Cardinals offense and the Cardinals team has been a surprise so far this year. Josh Dobbs, everyone thought they were tanking with him because they cut Colt McCoy, but he's been looking competent. He played a really safe game against the Cowboys and ended up winning the game. And, it seems like Marquise Brown is starting to emerge as his wide receiver one in the offense. Against the Cowboys, he had 5 receptions, 61 yards, and got a touchdown. That's 2 straight weeks for him, finding the end zone and getting the touchdown. So getting, those type of receptions and getting able to find the end zone is big, and I think it's something he can build on here.
Yeah, I think you and I were talking about this today, that we've been surprised how poised Dobbs has been. He hasn't turned over the ball. He's actually been able to have the offense not be like stellar, but it's been consistent. And as a result, Brown's done pretty good. So I totally understand your logic. I was fading him completely because I thought this team is obviously tanking. You're trading for a perennial backup quarterback with a few days to go before the start of the season. He didn't have a chance to understand the playbook or anything. Threw him right in. He's doing okay. So as far as trade values go, let me do something within the position group here. This will be interesting. DJ Moore, Jahan Dotson, or Jerry Jeudy, all guys who had high hopes who have not produced so far.
Yeah. I think the only one I wouldn't do, I wouldn't trade DJ Moore for him, but Dotson and Jeudy, I would at this point. Dotson is somebody I had high hopes coming in the season, thought, he's really going to make that sophomore jump as we see other year 2 receivers do. For whatever reason, Sam Howell and the Commanders just haven't targeted him like I thought. He's been disappointing. And, Jerry Jeudy, we talk about this Broncos offense. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it just seems like right now Jeudy is kind of the odd man out of this offense. They started targeting him late after the game got out of hand, but that concerns me.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, actually. I probably would trade those 2 away, but we want to hold on to DJ Moore. Just the potential is just so rich. And
we found him to get in the end zone, as well. So that plays a big fact. So.
Okay. How about cross positionally? Let's go with Pacheco, James Conner, or let's throw in Evan Ingram.
Interesting. I think, I think I'd be willing to capitalize off of Pacheco's game. He did pretty well against the Bears this weekend. I'd be willing to trade him for Marquise Brown. I don't know if I would do it for those other players, though.
Interesting. So you'd rather hold on to Evan Ingram and you'd rather hold on to James Conner.
Oh, James Conner I'd hold on to. I'd be willing to trade Evan Ingram for Marquise Brown.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade James Conner either. I mean, he's got that backfield on lock. I mean, we thought Keontae Ingram was going to do something this year, and he really hasn't.
I really wanted Keontae Ingram, kind of like Zach Charbonnet, as that insurance policy, because if James Conner or even a Walker goes down, those guys are going to be smashes in the offense, and they're not really going to compete with anybody.
No, I agree. But Conner has done a really good job. Ingram's in a crowded offense. I wouldn't blame you if your tight end's in a really bad spot. I guess the only thing is tight end's such a crapshoot right now. I mean, would you really want to? I mean, it'd probably be worth it to trade it away, right? I mean, why wouldn't you?
He's got name value. I can trade him, get Marquise Brown, and then I'm sure there's a tight end that. I mean, all you really need is a tight end to score a touchdown. I'm sure you can find one of those on the waiver wire to take a shot on.
One last one. What about Freiermuth, tight end wise? I know you had high hopes. He did show up, on Sunday night.
Yeah, that's tough. But I think I might be willing to trade Freiermuth for Marquise Brown. At this point, I've just been disappointed again. Freiermuth, I know there's still potential. We're only 3 weeks in here, but I just expected him to be more utilized in this offense, and he just hasn't been. luckily 2 out of the 3 weeks he's, gotten in the end zone. But until this game Sunday night, he had 5 total yards. So he did have 3 catches or over 40 yards and a touchdown. So
interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, a tight end's a crapshoot, so I don't blame you for feeling like you could get Marquise Brown. I guess the only question is, do you feel like Marquise Brown right now is an every week starter?
no, I think he could be a flex play at this point. I mean, I don't, maybe wide receiver 3 flex play at this point. He could, maybe if we see him get those bigger plays, but I mean, he's had, 5 or 6 catches for 60 yards and then he gets a touchdown, and that's what makes his week, and you get back-to-back weeks with a touchdown. So I think depending on the matchup, but the fact that he could do it against the Cowboys, I know they don't have Trayvon Diggs, but that Cowboys defense was supposed to be all world, and the fact that he got a touchdown and still had the 60 yards was pretty impressive.
My only problem with that sometimes is like, you've got guys like Jaden Reed, you got guys like DJ Chark, right? These guys are possibly available on your wire. Sometimes I struggle with this, like, okay, he's more of a matchup based flex, right? How much do I really want to give up for a Marquise Brown? Like, could I get a replaceable player on the wire and based on matchups? It can get frustrating at times, though.
Yeah, I guess the difference is Marquise Brown is the wide receiver 1 on this Cardinals offense that has looked better than we thought. Where Jaden Reed, Christian Watson should be coming back soon. How does that affect his role? There's a lot of guys along in that offense. I mean, to have a guy that Dobbs seems to be targeting first and Marquise Brown, I mean, could be valuable.
So my other player that I'm telling you that you should buy now is wide receiver Amari Cooper. I had really high hopes for Amari Cooper this season, partly because I thought Deshaun Watson was going to take this next step within the Cleveland Browns offense. It was really shaky when he came in, when he got traded, from the Houston Texans, obviously. But really up until this game against the Titans, he's looked really shaky. This is probably Deshaun Watson's best performance as a Cleveland Brown. The biggest recipient of that was Amari Cooper. And, Amari Cooper had 8 targets, 7 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown. And honestly, he got robbed. He probably would have got even more if it wasn't for that boneheaded call by the ref that says he was out of bounds when he was clearly not near out of bounds. He could have been in play for a second touchdown, if not more yards, which was probably frustrating for him and for fantasy owners who had him like me. But I think I was talking about this one of our last videos, but I wondered with Nick Chubb going down and being off for the year, would the identity of this offense change? And maybe we saw a glimpse of that. I mean, Watson only threw it 33 times. He was very efficient. But the part of that is because we know the Titans secondary is one of the worst in the league. So I like Cooper moving forward. And I was surprised to see where his value was based on a trade value chart. And based on that, if that's really what his value is, I would definitely go after him.
Interesting. Let's put that to the test here. Would you be trading guys away like Chris Godwin, Zay Flowers, Christian Watson, Tyler Lockett, Puka Nacua?
All the above.
Man, wow.
I'm very high on Cooper, so I'm going to tell you keep going and going and going. Puka is actually the one interesting one, actually.
Yeah.
Only because, I mean, his targets have been unbelievable. I mean, he's come out of absolutely nowhere. I have a hard time. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I have a hard time trading a guy who I invested very highly in the draft and saying, oh, yeah, I'll trade him for this waiver wire pickup that's caught the league by storm, and I'm going to trade him away for that who could completely flame out. He could be really good, but I just struggle because, like, you put all this draft capital into play and you're going to trade him. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you ever feel that way?
No, definitely. I mean, depending on how much I think it's definitely how much draft capital you put into somebody definitely could waver. And I do feel a certain type of way when I get a trade offer from somebody and I'm like, oh, you just picked this guy up the waiver wire. Now you're trying to get one of my guys that I drafted. Yeah,
right.
I definitely feel that. But I mean, Puka's just been an anomaly, though. I mean, the way he's getting hyper targeted has just been absolutely insane, he might be somebody I could make that exception for.
Yeah, but for me, I trade all those guys. I would acquire Cooper for all those guys, and I would do it for Puka too, just because I think Cooper is a 1A receiver or one. Yeah, he's a number one alpha receiver on an offense that I think is he's gonna do well.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. Yeah, as far as the running back value in that range, I know you're gonna pretty much trade all of those guys for Amari Cooper as well. But one thing I thought was interesting, would you be willing to? Well, I think I would trade Darren Waller for him. What do you think?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, Darren Waller. I mean, we've expected so much out of him, and he has been such a disappointment. And I don't really know much will change. If you want a difference maker at tight end, we thought he was going to be that. And unless something drastically changes, and the only way I could possibly see that is maybe during a bye week, maybe they have extra preparation to try to institute something new in the offense to try to change things. But I don't see it happening. So, I mean, for me, based on the trade value chart, I have him very high. I have him. I view him as probably a 60-point value, where right now he's a 40-point value. So to me, I have him 20 points higher than
Right.
what, and that might just be, I don't know, that might be me having a higher view of him, or maybe he'll start to rise. I don't know, but even last year, I want to say he finished as a top 15 receiver with the likes of Jakobi Brissett most of the year, and then Deshaun Watson towards the end. They actually played better with Brissett. So this guy's been a model of consistency year in, year out. I don't really understand why his value was so down.
Last year he had those weird home versus road splits though, and that was even with Jakobi Brissett. And then I was kind of nervous just with that. I know it was a small sample size and Watson didn't play well. My concern with him though was, do him and Watson just not have that rapport? And what would that look like this year? But so far it seems to be fine. And to your point, if that passing volume does end up going up, and that's more so Nick Chubb leaving and not the fact that they played a tough defensive line with the Tennessee Titans and they just have a weak secondary, Cooper could be a great play going forward.
I think if nothing else, he is a guy who I think he's a wide receiver too, but in my mind has the ability to be a one. I think he does. He's shown it over the past, from history standpoint, he's performed in that regard. So it's one of those things where it's like if the identity of the offense changes, it might be worthwhile to check in with your league mate who has him and check in to see what he wants from him. Because if the value is more lower, I buy him. If they're high as I am, then you're going to be like, absolutely not. Because,
Right.
you're not really going to gain anything out of it. I just am surprised how, I don't know where do you stand? Are you kind of as high as I am, or would you say you're a little bit lower, or you like where he's at?
I think the 40 range that he's at is low, but I think after this week it'll go up. I think I think around probably probably around the 50 spot is where I have him. Somewhere in between where he's at and you. I definitely don't view him as that 60 point player based off of this trade value chart. Because I'd rather have Deebo Samuel than Cooper, but I know you would prefer Cooper.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, who's an interesting one is Mike Evans too. You know what I mean? But to me, Godwin is a better complement receiver than Elijah Moore. I like the potential of Elijah Moore, but nothing's really come of it. There really isn't that other guy in that offense yet. They've got Peoples-Jones, they've got Tillman, but they just haven't. No one's really stepped up.
Yeah, I do think the next guy in line does seem to be Elijah Moore. I've seen the last 2 weeks. I know it really hasn't manufactured into big weeks, but I've just seen the game plan. Like I said, him lining up at running back, they're targeting him. Him and Watson just haven't gotten that rapport down yet, but I think that might come here.
So that was 4 players that we're telling you to buy now. As of this week, make sure you get them before their value goes up so they can help you win some games for your team. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.